Women Work Well is a community that centers working moms and offers resources to help working moms balance work, wellness, and womanhood. We profile everyday women to show you how to live abundantly, love your babies, and level up in your career. Welcome to Women Work Well.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Desiree. This is a really fun way to kick off a Friday, so I'm excited to
Right?
be here with you.
Right. This is a gift from my best friend. It is the hype button. So I
That's
need
perfect.
I need this hypeness in my life today. I gotta be honest that I'm on the struggle bus today.
Yeah.
I am so blessed and I had a chance to do spring break with my kids. But you know how they say you need like a vacation from the vacation?
Every time. It never fails. Every single time.
Okay, y'all. I see people saying good morning, Lily. Drop in the chat where you are tuning in from. Megan, rep your city. Where you dialing in from?
Listen, I'm dialing in from Stone Mountain, Georgia, okay? Dirty South, right outside of Atlanta. It's gonna be a hot day. So we're gonna bring the energy, we're gonna bring the fire so we can match the energy of the day.
I love it. But let me tell you something. I am sitting in St. Louis. It is rainy. It is cold. Okay. I just want a blanket and a cup of tea. So help me.
That was us last week. That was us last week. So I feel you. I highly recommend that blanket and that cup of tea and
Right.
whatever else you need to get comfortable.
Right, right. This is a total sidebar and digression. Have you ever used a weighted blanket?
I have not. I am afraid to because I have sleep paralysis.
Oh,
Okay. So there are already times where
like,
I
is that
like
a condition or
it's a thing. Yeah. When I was little, I used to call it getting stuck in my sleep. That's basically what it is. Like you wake up mentally, but you physically cannot move your body. So I love the concept of a weighted blanket. However, I don't need anything else holding me down when I have those episodes.
can't
So
nobody hold you down? Okay,
yeah.
that's fair. I would like to thank this community. This community of women encouraged me to try melatonin. I was scared because I was like, look, what is in this? But I tried melatonin and a weighted blanket, lights out. It has really helped me. So thank you all. Well, let us get started. I am Desiree Coleman-Fry. I am your host for Women Work Well. Women Work Well is a community that helps women feel seen, and we show you how to love your babies, level up in your career, and live abundantly. And I have an amazing guest. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, tell you about herself and her family and what she does for a living. So over to you, Megan.
Thanks. I love that mission of Women Work Well, Desiree. That's so beautiful. And we need all of those things. So I'm Megan Freeland. I am a pharmacist by training, but I work primarily in health communications, health content writing, all that good stuff. Again, based in Atlanta, but originally am from South Carolina, so not too far away. And me and my husband have two little ones. My 6-year-old is in the first grade. His name is Trey, and that we have a 3-year-old named Maya who keeps the whole household on its toes. And so, yeah, those are my babies.
Okay, so describe their personalities because I feel like it's always one who like
The
keeps
No
you
Limit Soldier.
careful.
Uh huh. Yeah. So I have for anyone who's like into horoscopes, they're both Virgos. I didn't know anything about Virgos until I had two Virgo children, and I have learned a lot about them. I myself am a Libra, and so it is, it's a thing. Both of them are extroverted to a degree, which is challenging, present tense. For both my husband and I, because we're both introverts. So, when we go out into the world, we want to, do our thing. We don't need to chit chat with other people. They're the kind of ones who are like saying hey to everybody sitting at the table as they walk to the bathroom, chatting it up with whomever. So they're both very, they're both very extroverted. My daughter, I will say though, she has some more walls. So even family members who she doesn't know very well, like it takes a while for her to warm up to you. Once she does, she's good, but she can be a little tougher nut to crack.
I'm not mad at it. You
I'm
gotta
not.
feel people
She's
out.
me. She's
Listen,
me.
you gotta feel people out. Okay, well, thank you for sharing. This episode is all about mamapreneurs, so people who either are working full time in their business, maybe you have a 9 to 5 and also a 5 to 9. Maybe you are a solopreneur. Maybe you just are in the gig economy. But shout out to all of the ladies who are multifaceted, right?
Yes.
And so, Megan, you have a journey. Would you talk to us a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yes. So my business is called Stock Rose Creative. It's a health content marketing company. And basically, we work with digital health companies, health tech companies, basically any companies that are doing really innovative work in healthcare and helping them make sure that their content strategy, so the written content they're creating, is rooted in a culturally relevant, from a culturally relevant perspective. Because a lot of times, folks are trying to reach different communities with their education, with their information, but the strategy doesn't always align with what those goals are. So that's what I do in Stock Rose. And we also teach other pharmacists and healthcare providers how to use their clinical expertise to be able to support these companies with similar services. That business, the service health content writing aspect of it, started by accident back in 2016 or 2017. And it was by accident because really I was in a job, a full time role that I did not love. And I needed some type of outlet to like remind me that even though I am in this job that drains me every day, um,
Oh
there's
no.
every day there's at least this thing on the side that really excites me. So I started just a public health pharmacy blog. I would answer questions that my friends and my family members would send me all the time, and it was just something I enjoyed doing. A health company somehow, I still don't know exactly how, stumbled across the blog and were like, hey, can you write for us? We'll pay you. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this was something companies are paying for. Of course I will. And that was kind of how I stumbled into freelancing, and over time took much more intentional steps to build that out into a real business. And then in 2021 is when I introduced the coaching program, Health Professionals to Health Writers, to my business. And so now that is the primary space that I operate in. I work with about 10 healthcare providers per cohort. And then I still leave a little bit of room for client work on the side if I have the capacity and if it's a company that has a mission I'm really, really passionate about.
So let me ask you a question for women who have ideas or want to delve into their business. I think I heard you say you sort of followed the path of the thing that was calling you, the thing that you felt like you could do really well, and the thing that excites you. What would you say to someone who wants to start a business, is on the fence, but just doesn't quite know how?
I would say there's definitely value in doing whatever preliminary research you can to kind of figure out what those first steps might be. But I understand that that information is not always available at all or easily accessible. And one of the best ways to figure out how to move forward if you don't have that information kind of sitting right in front of you is just to try. I am a big proponent, and I think throughout my professional career, my journey as a mom, my business career, I have always focused on taking the next step, not necessarily knowing what all the other steps are. Oftentimes, I have no idea what is coming after the step that I'm about to take, but I have faith. This is where my faith comes in. I have faith that the future steps will be shown to me, but it requires me to take that initial step before I can see what the other steps are. So I would encourage you, if you're in a place where you're like wanting to start something, but you're feeling hesitation for any reason, it might be less overwhelming and less intimidating to think about what the next best step is than to try to figure out like what is A through Z.
Well, I hear you saying faith is required in the journey of motherhood, in the journey of entrepreneurship, and really in life, because you may not have all of the pieces of the puzzle, but it's
Yeah,
about identifying what is that next best thing, what is the tiny step. So understanding kind of what's within your scope of control and being willing to give it a try. I love this because as you think about women, I mean, we are smart, we are talented, we are capable, and we will dissect something. We will know all of the pieces of the puzzle that are needed. And sometimes action is what is
yeah,
required.
yep, agree.
I love that. So you stepped out, you started your business. Was it smooth sailing and you're still running it and you rode off into the sunset, or what happened?
I mean, is that ever the story? You know, it is the one thing you said is that it's still running. It was not smooth sailing. We did not ride off into the sunset. I think those challenges, again, they're a part of all of our journeys. And so what I found was that when I first started out, I had to figure out what those steps were. They're one of the reasons I created my coaching program is because I knew that people who were in my position, right, who were healthcare providers, I knew that there was an interest in this path, but that they would have no idea what those steps are. I knew that because I was in that position. And even though I was in that position, I already had a lot of writing and communications experience. It just wasn't health content writing because that's a very distinct type. Most healthcare professionals don't have any of that. So I knew if I was starting from scratch, they're starting from like negative scratch. So I created that resource that I wished I had had. But again, I didn't have that resource. And so it was not smooth sailing because trial and error is never smooth sailing. It required persistence, it required perseverance. When I started freelancing, my son was 1 year old, so I didn't have a whole lot of time. I was probably still a little bit in the throes of postpartum anxiety, and yeah, things were hectic. I also had the audacity to start a master's of public health program at the same time, and I don't know what I was thinking. You know, you have a 1 year old, you're planning a wedding, you're working, you have a side business. Why would this be a good time to, go back to school? That was one thing that had to come off of my plate because it wasn't actually necessary anyway. But these are just all examples of like all of the factors that went into that one situation. And this applies to everyone, especially at this point in our lives. If you're a parent or want to be a parent soon, there's always going to be all of these variables that complicate or affect, whatever professional or business related ideas you have. So you kind of have to expect the turbulence. You got to expect the chaos a little bit. And, where necessary, make interventions so that you can prioritize family and whatever else is a priority to you. But smooth sailing it was not, and I don't expect it to be now or in the future.
Well, I love what you said. Anticipate the challenges. So I think sometimes, folks may want that step A to step B to step C, and it may go A to F. It may go
Mhm.
A to Q. And so knowing that going in hopefully gives people a little more assurance so that when they experience those setbacks, it's not necessarily defeat. It's
Yeah.
like, how do I pivot in this moment? I love what you said about you had all of these things that you were juggling, and then you had to reassess and say, what is not working well in this particular season? And I think giving ourselves permission to say, no, not now.
Hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean no, never. It just means not now. And giving yourself the grace to say, I want to do this thing. I'm excited about this particular academic program. But in this season, it's not working for me, my family, my business, and all of the things that I've chosen to prioritize. And so it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. it means that you found the thing that mattered most and you prioritize that. So
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes if you are not in a place where you're able to prioritize, that affects the status of all of those other things, right? So if I had kept going within that program, I wouldn't have been a good mom. I wouldn't have been a good employee. I wouldn't have been a good business owner. I wouldn't have been a good student. None of the things. I would have excelled at none of the things. So it's like, what are the opportunity costs of continuing to have an overflowing plate versus making what can be a bit of a tough decision and deciding to take something off of it.
Listen, you are talking to me right now. Because I am a woman who has many interests and many things that I'm passionate about. And so, really trying to figure out what that glass ball is in a particular season is
Mhm.
sometimes challenging. And we've talked about this before, but as women, it's like a three-wing circus. I mean, I heard you say it's picture day. Like, we are shuttling kids places. We are helping them think about the next steps in their lives. We are standing in the gap. We are praying for them. We are encouraging them. We are calling the school if there's an issue, right? So we're doing all of the things on top of, whatever other personal passions we may have, or whatever other extended family things we have going on, or whatever our personal pursuits may be. And so it's always going to be this maze of competing priorities.
Mhm.
And one thing though is the glass ball. So we can be juggling, we can catch it, we can like keep it going, throw it over our head, but one thing can't fall. And so figuring out what that thing is in a particular season, because it changes from season to season, may be challenging, but I think knowing that and guarding that as sacred is so important.
Yeah, completely agree.
So I want to ask you, this is an episode about mamapreneurs, solopreneurs, side hustlers, whatever your walk in life may be. So you had a business, you were running it full time, working in your business full time, also leading your family. And then you had to stop that and take a job. So talk to us about that moment and sort of the feelings that you had on the inside of, having this thing that you've birthed in your business and needing to pivot, and how you kind of made that decision.
Yeah, so when in 2018, I had been freelancing for about a year and a half, and I decided, all right, I'm at a good place to be able to let go of my full-time role and run this business full-time, which I did for 3 years, up until January 2021. And that's when I went back into a full-time role. And that was not something that was in my crystal ball. I didn't see that as a path that I was going to take. What happened was I was scrolling on LinkedIn like I usually am. And
Shout out to LinkedIn.
shout out to LinkedIn. Okay. Every professional opportunity I've ever had has been connected to LinkedIn in some way. So I was just scrolling, and you know how you might not necessarily be connected to a person, but if one of your connections likes a post or interacts with a post, it'll show up on your feed. And
Mhm.
so a job description kind of came on my feed, and the title immediately grabbed my attention. I read the description. I'm like, did somebody write this for me? Like, this is for me. This is the complete and perfect combination of all of my professional experience and then all of the things that I was also personally passionate about. So I hadn't been applying for jobs. I wasn't like on Indeed or anything. I just came across that post and I was like, I can't not apply for this because it's just too perfect. And I was really passionate about the organization. So I applied that night. It was like real quick. It was the most casual, um storytelling like cover letter I've ever written. Like, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody. I was just basically like, this is made for me and this is why, and like incorporated the story. And I got that role. And so that's when I had to make a decision like, so I applied for a full-time job. What does that mean for my family? What does that mean for my business? I decided to take it because, again, one, it was a perfect match for my skills. It was also relevant to my business in some way. Like the subjects are not the exact same, but it's relevant. And I felt like it would be additive to my skill set as a professional, and as a business owner. And then also, I was at a point in my business where I knew I wanted to start that coaching program, but like, as lots of mamapreneurs will know, if you are in your business full time and you want to make a change, it requires overhead to make that change. That overhead might be time, that overhead might be money, but you have to pull something back, unless you have a team, in which case, things are different. But you have to pull something back in order to be able to put something else forward. And with the pandemic that was going on at the time, my children, who were 6 months old and 3 years old at the time, I didn't have overhead to be able to make that type of change in my business. What the full time role was going to do was allow me to have that overhead that I needed to say, hey, I'm going to pause here, pull something back from my business so that I can create something new. And I didn't have the pressure of needing that overhead to come from my business, because I was able to pull that overhead from my full-time role. So it was like the perfect storm of events. And I'm really grateful I made that decision. It wasn't easy. Not being in control of my own time, that was an adjustment. But it has been a great decision, and it's tough to juggle both, but I think I did the right thing.
Well, I love it for so many reasons. Number one, that was an amazing strategic pivot, right? And I think sometimes we get locked into everything has to be linear and, your path has to go from A to Z. But what you said is, hey, if I take this full time job, that will give me the time and space to know that my bills are paid and I can build out this coaching thing. And when I'm ready, right, I can pursue it in a different way. And I think that's so powerful. If you are a perfectionist, or if you have a dogged vision for what your future is going to be like, it's so hard to pivot. Sometimes it's so hard to let things go, and to sort of feel a loss. But I love how you sort of had this zigzag vision that, like, hey, I'm going to go get this experience over here. It's going to enable me to do something else in my business, and ultimately it's going to fuel my long-term future. So love it.
Yes, yes.
So for women who are feeling just the pressure of managing families, managing expectations. There may be gendered expectations. So there's so many statistics that say that women take on a disproportionate share of caring for the household. So
Mhm.
what do you say to the mom who's like, if I prioritize my business, does that mean I don't love my kiddos? How do you sort of tease through those decisions that you have to make when it comes to your business?
Ooh, this is a deep one. I feel like it could go in so many directions. I will say, I think that my how I became a mother is relevant to this part of the conversation. I Over half of pregnancies in the United States are unintended. Mine was one of those. So I was actually in a like postgraduate fellowship program when I got pregnant. I had an IUD, wasn't trying to get pregnant at all, but decided to continue on, and I became a mother. And I don't know that I was emotionally or mentally like ready for that, because it wasn't an active decision that I made. And so I don't know if that kind of feeds into um, how much of my own individual identity I was able to retain. It might be that if I was at a point in my life where it was like, all right, I'm ready to get pregnant and become a mother, maybe my identity of myself would have been different, because maybe I would have seen myself as a mother, but it took me a long time to see myself as a mother. That was challenging in when my child was an infant, when he was little. But I think the silver lining of that was that I never lost what I consider to be my own individual identity. And so when I think about all of the kind of how you named all of the things that we're doing as moms, all of the things that we're doing in our personal lives, our personal passions, etc. Those were, though I never lost those, I never lost that desire to make sure that I was in tune with my own interests and my own passions. Now, the capacity that I had to spend on those things, that of course changed, but my desire for it didn't change. And so I guess my advice for women who find themselves feeling a little bit torn about the time that you might need to dedicate or whatever resources you might need to dedicate to your own journey, maybe that requires some deeper work. Like maybe that requires some deeper conversations about your identity and, you know, what your purpose is in this world. Is it just to be someone's mother, or is it to be this whole person where, like, yes, you are a mother, yes, you may be a partner to someone, yes, you may be an employee, but who are you as an individual? And then what does it look like to feed your needs as an individual, not just as a mother, not just as a partner, not just as an employee, but as a person?
The doors of the church are open. So I think, I mean, that's so deep because you've hit on, and we probably need to do a whole session on this, is your identity. And is your role the same as your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Is, you know, how does, when God created you, what was his master plan and vision? And I would venture the guess that it was multiple things, not a
Mm-hmm.
singular thing. And so it feels like there is always going to be a tension, and it's really about understanding sort of in the season what you're called to do, how you show up in that way, how you fulfill your roles, absolutely, but sort of how you sort of think about balancing those things. You said something earlier that I think is so powerful, is that you leave space in your schedule and in your life for new clients. And
Mm-hmm.
so that feels like one way that women can still show up and be all of the things to, you know, their various roles, their various commitments, but leaving a little bit of margin, perhaps is that space where you preserve
Mm-hmm.
the capacity if you want to endeavor in your business or if you want to pursue something. So I think that that's really powerful. We are winding down, and I want to give you the last word. I want to share something that I have been working on, and I've really just been thinking about grace, how we extend ourselves, grace. So I created an ebook that is, you know, full of reflections and full of prompts. And you talked about doing some of the deeper work, so I want to make this available. But Megan, I want to give you the last word, and I really would like for you to leave something that's going to be encouraging to a mom who may be going through with her kids, a woman who may be discouraged in her business, a woman who may be paralyzed in fear and kind of feeling like she may not be able to prioritize her business. What's something you would leave for them this week?
Two things. So one, you're not alone. Desiree and I are here talking to you. We experience the same things or similar things that you experience as well, not immune from those challenging situations. So just know that you have solidarity in us, and that we see you and we feel you. The second thing is actually a phrase I heard a mom friend of mine say on a podcast. So I don't know who originally said it, but that's who I got it from. And I think about it every day. Is this saying that you have endless potential, but your capacity changes from day to day. That means you can do anything you want to do, baby. I'm talking about infinite potential. Um, but the reality is that, you know, one day you might not feel so well. One day you might not have the help you need. One day your children might be trying you. One day your business might be going through some, you know, that things change from day to day, and your ability to meet whatever that moment is going to change from day to day. So, to Desiree's point, and I love this ebook because this is exactly the message that I think is important for us all to remember. we have to have grace with other people, but we also have to have grace with ourselves every day. Every day is going to be a challenge. It might be a struggle. It's going to be a new day. But having that grace with ourselves in a world that doesn't always have grace for us is really essential from being able to make it to the next day and the day after and the day after. So that's what I'll leave y'all with today.
Boom. Enough said. We are at the end of this edition of Women Work Well. Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you for everyone who joined, who commented, shared. Please tag your friends, and we will see you this time next month. Take care, everybody.
Thank y'all.